And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Thursday, February 1st. We have a lot to talk about on the show today, but before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, with that being said, let's get right into what we are going to talk about for today. So you probably saw it as I pulled up the tips graphic. So that's the second topic of the show. But we'll start off the show. We're going to just touch upon the Justin Tucker, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce thing that happened before the AFC Championship game. I know I touched upon it briefly, but I know Tucker gave his explanation, and then Kelce and Mahomes gave their side. So I just wanted to touch upon that. In the second part of the show, as you saw, we'll talk about the Super Bowl odds. Who's got the best odds to win Super Bowl MVP? I mean, obviously, it's not really a surprise who's going to be, the first two, who's got the best odds. But we'll touch upon that. I'll give you my thoughts on it. Then in the third part of the show, we'll talk about some more coaching changes. The Seahawks, they hired defensive coordinator Mike McDonald to be their next head coach. So he spent the previous couple seasons with the Ravens. So that's another head coaching spot that has been filled now. There's only one remaining, and that is the Washington Commanders. So we'll wait and see what they do. We'll also talk about the Packers also hiring a new defensive coordinator as well. And then in the final part of the show, we're going to talk about the New York Jets, because there was an article that came out that basically just talked about a lot of things that happened behind the scenes. What went on, a lot of stuff with Robert Saleh. So we'll get into that, and that'll be the final part of the show, because I wanted to touch upon that as well. So with that being said, let's get right into the first topic, which is talking about the little situation that we had that went on before the game on Sunday. So obviously there's a video. You've seen the video probably, but you see Justin Tucker stretching and Patrick Mahomes is warming up. You see Tucker's helmet and his two footballs and the kicking tee, which for some reason I couldn't think of what it was called, but that was all right there while he was warming up. And then you see Travis Kelce walk over, toss the helmet, toss the footballs, and you see Tucker laughing. So they all had their explanations as to first of all, the main thing is both sides are like, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal at all. But you had Tucker saying that it was gamesmanship. He said that they were kind of taking it a little more seriously than he thought. And then you had Travis Kelce and Mahomes, basically saying, yeah, they were taking it a little more seriously. Because for me, when I just watched the video, I was like, yeah, I didn't really like that, just how that went about. But what Kelce said on the podcast was that, so there are a couple things. Well, he talked about Tucker being, well, I'm not going to say it on the air, but he basically was saying why are you keeping all your stuff where the quarterback's warming up? He said, if you're not going to pick that up, I'll happily move that for you. But I'm trying to see where Tucker. So Justin came out and he said it was more of a joking gesture and kind of fun. Well, that's just what Kelce's saying, kind of fun, competitive, and I get it. So Kelce's like, yeah, I get it. He said he was kind of winking at me, trying to get under my skin. We weren't in a joking mood. We were ready to get after it. It's one, and they were saying, and he also said it's one of the unwritten rules. When you got guys warming up, and I get it, because I'm pretty sure. So Mahomes had asked Tucker to move the equipment, and he did, but I guess he really didn't move it that much. So then that's why Kelce came over and just tossed everything into the end zone. So this is what Mahomes said. I've had 7 years of doing the same warm-up routine. There's only been 3 occasions where there's been a kicker that wasn't moving out of the way. It was in Baltimore all 3 times. Okay, so and he did say that Mahomes also said that he thought Tucker was trying to get under their skin, adding that he was going to let it slide, but then Travis, that's when Kelce moved all the stuff. That's when Travis moved it for me. Tucker said Monday in the consider the pregame incident to be gamesmanship and all in good fun. But yeah, so really it's not a big deal. But I mean, I do kind of agree with what they said on the podcast. I mean, you had the equipment right there. Well, first of all, I mean, yeah, you could maybe bump into it or something. But at the same time, it's I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But they all said it's not that big of a deal either. But and I get it. It's to try to get under their skin, and the Chiefs they've been in that playoff mode this whole time since the playoffs have started. So it's gonna take a little more than that to really rattle them, and it didn't really affect them because they came out and they went right down the field on their first drive. I mean, again, the Ravens defense shut them down in the second half, but the Chiefs, they've been in that playoff mode, and they don't want any they didn't want any distractions, and that really just didn't do anything because the Ravens ended up losing. Because I know when that video came out, everyone's like, "Oh, Justin Tucker's going to kick a game-winning field goal, and it's going to be amazing." Well, that ended up not happening. He only kicked the ball one time. Of course, he made it because he's Justin Tucker, but yeah, I mean that's really what it was. I mean, I don't think there was any, it didn't seem like there was any bitterness on either side. They kind of were just like, yeah, it's not a big deal. They both said that Justin Tucker's the best kicker, in the NFL. Might be the best kicker of all time. Probably is the best kicker of all time. So, again, it's just something that Tucker has done in the past, and they just weren't having it. But but Mahomes said he wasn't going to do anything. It's just then Kelce came over and just tossed the equipment. But then you saw, Mahomes toss the kicking tee, because he did that too. When Tucker put the stuff back, then Mahomes took the kicking tee and he tossed that. So, but yeah, I mean, really, like I said, it's going to take a lot more to rattle the Chiefs, because right now it doesn't seem like anything is, because they've just been locked in, ever since the playoffs have started, and now they're back in the Super Bowl again, and the Ravens they went home. So again, like I said, we're going to be talking about the Super Bowl a lot. I mean, this week's almost over. We got all of next week too to talk about things. So there's still some little bits and pieces from the championship games that I still wanted to touch upon, and this was one of them. Again, because there's so much time between now and the Super Bowl, and obviously we'll get into the Super Bowl MVP odds in the next segment. But yeah, this was just, I know I touched upon this a little bit, but we heard now the explanations of all three players. So I just figured, all right, I'll talk about it. But yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal. It's but you look on social media and you're like, wow, this is a big deal, but it's not. You got to take certain things with a grain of salt. And I think it's also important that you hear both sides of a story. But I think the other thing is people are just sick and tired of the Chiefs, that they're just going to automatically just side with Justin Tucker. But I mean, it's whatever. I mean, it happened. The game was played, and now we're looking towards the Super Bowl. But I thought it was interesting that in the ESPN article that I was looking at, because it had all of them, all their quotes in it, that Mahomes said it's happened in Baltimore 3 times. So, but and listen, you thought maybe that was gonna fire up the Ravens, but it really didn't do anything. It just didn't. But again, not a big deal, and you move on from that. So, but like I said, I mean, we got a whole another week of Super Bowl content. So, and obviously when that happens, there's going to be media day and all that. So, we'll talk about things that, the players are saying throughout the week and things like that as we get set for the Super Bowl. But obviously we got the Pro Bowl stuff this week, which I don't really know what there is to talk about with that. I mean, I guess you could talk about who's going to the Pro Bowl. I guess tomorrow I'll do a segment on that because I know obviously a lot of the players that get voted in don't necessarily go. So then they have, alternates get voted in and they go. So we'll talk about that tomorrow, towards the end of the show. Peyton Manning and Eli Manning will be coaching against each other, which I like. That I like about the Pro Bowl. I think that's a lot of fun. But also because ESPN is broadcasting it, and they do the Manning cast, so of course they're going to be a part of it. But I like that. I know it probably is going to get played out. I mean, this is the second year now they're doing this, but listen, they're entertainers now, and I listen. For me personally, I'm fine with it. They could do it every year. I wouldn't care, but for other people, they'll probably be like, "Oh, another year of this." I mean, people will find a way to complain about things. That's really just what I've come to the conclusion with. So. But yeah, so we'll talk about the Pro Bowl tomorrow. Obviously, Kelce and Mahomes, they got a Super Bowl to prepare for. The 49ers, they got guys that got voted in from their team, got a Super Bowl to prepare for. But also a quick little thing: do you guys prefer this question? And you could leave it in the comments, whatever. Do you prefer this or do you prefer the traditional game? Because, well, I mean, I'll be honest. I don't really care either way. You know what? I did like when they did the fantasy draft. They had two former players, be the coach or the captain, and they would draft, and they did that. I liked when they did that a couple of years. That made it a little more interesting. But then that kind of they did away with that and went back to the traditional way. And now they got rid of that, and now we got this. I mean, I at least give them credit for trying to be a little creative, I guess, if you want to call it creative. But it's just it's not working. It just at least for me. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. I mean, I don't really care. I honestly I do kind of miss the traditional game, but it's fun seeing. I mean, having Eli and Peyton be the coaches of if they did the fantasy draft, that'd be cool. I don't know, but that's just another thing. Yeah, that's just again another little tangent I went off on. But anyways, so that's basically it when talking about this. So let me know what you guys think about this whole situation. Even though I think most people probably are just like, it's not a big deal, which it isn't. I mean, they even said it's not a big deal themselves. But let me know in the comments below. So when we come back from our first break of the show, we'll talk about the Super Bowl. We'll talk about the MVP odds, for certain players. I'll give you my thoughts on that. And that is what we'll do when we come back from our first break of the show. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.